Welcome to the On Purpose Investor Podcast, show 48.
Yeah. But go into it with a strategy. So you're not busting your butt to buy houses that don't fit your dream life. Don't climb the ladder up the wrong building and reach your dream life and look around and say, oh, whoa, like this is not what I wanted.
Welcome to the On Purpose Investor Podcast with your host, Eric and Tiffany Vogel. We've spent several hard years building a rental property portfolio so we can have more time with our family and live our ideal life. Now, finding your path can be difficult, so we're here to guide you along the way with lessons, tips, and tricks to design and implement your dream life. Now, sit back, turn up the volume, smash that follow button, and get ready for this episode of the On Purpose Investor. What is going on, y'all, and welcome back to the On Purpose Investor Podcast. We just wrapped up season 4, which was our interview series. And boy, did we have some awesome talent come through the podcast and just share just a, would you say, litany of information?
That sounds good.
A vast array of information, you know, from single family rentals to commercial investing to landlording to mobile homes. There was so much that we covered last season. And what we hear through our analytics and all is that you wanted Tiffany back. So without further ado, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. I think Dan might have been the most vocal of all our listeners. So thank you, Dan, for missing me.
Oh, we appreciate all of the feedback we get here, especially from Dan. So we're diving into season 5 today. And over the course of the next 12 weeks, we're going to be covering just a litany of topics.
Oh, is that the word of the day now?
What TV show was it where it's like word of the day? Was it Pee-wee's Big Adventure?
I don't know.
Or Pee-wee's Playhouse?
I was
like
going to say
the word
Sesame
of the day.
Street, but that was the letter.
Yeah. So anyways, the next 12 episodes, today included, we're going to be covering the absolute bare basics. We don't have a catchy little phrase or title for the season, but throughout the season, we're going to be covering all the little things that every brand new investor or people that have been investors need help, you know, gaining clarity throughout their investing career. So maybe you have dabbled a little bit in this and dabbled a little bit in that, and you may have skipped over some things. You're finding some rough patches with being a landlord. You're finding rough patches with funding. Maybe you need to figure out how to build a scope of work better. But today we're going to kick off the season with what is the buy box? Why is the buy box so important? And how can you create your own?
Yeah. And just to add, a lot of people have come to us with questions about certain things that we're going to discuss in the season. So the idea is let's just get it out there on the podcast, answer the questions that have been coming to us. And, you know, we've really been talking about the buy box lately and have been asked a ton of questions about it. So what is the buy box?
When someone asks me, hey, what do you invest in? Your answer is typically going to align with what your buy box is.
Yeah.
So when people say, hey, Eric, what do you invest in? We invest in single family rental homes that are 3-bedroom, 2-bath, that are within X amount of miles from our house or downtown of where we live. And they are in this type of, you know, environment.
Yeah.
Or neighborhood or whatever.
Yeah. I would say like a definition that I kind of have is a criteria of the type of house you want to buy or that you do buy.
Right.
And we didn't have that going in. And we bought some houses that were not necessarily the right fit for us. But then we got really killer financing on it when rates were super low. So now we have to decide, are we willing to walk away from our 2.99% loans? Or do we keep those houses and how do we pivot? So it would have been nicer from that day one to have said, hey, this is what we want to buy. And stuck with that so we could have that great financing on houses that we want to keep until we die.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say is like, what if we could look back on houses we bought 4 years ago and there'd be no question that those are the houses we're keeping forever.
Right.
And, you know, it's like, yeah, we have awesome financing, but on a property we're just not absolutely in love with. Now, those properties, we have made them work and they are great cash flowing assets, but it's not the houses that I want to be when we're 50s and 60s that I want to say that's part of my portfolio.
Yeah. But the great thing is we got 30-year financing. We're in our early 30s. So we could just pay them down let them cash flow like crazy and then
Yeah.
trade them up. Or, there's, even if you buy the wrong house, there is a way to pivot to make it work for you.
Yeah.
And I don't know, that's going off topic, but I think, yes, we maybe would not have made those choices had we had a buy box.
Yeah.
But I don't regret it because it pushed us in a direction that has been a better decision for us. So at the end of the day, have a buy box so you can buy the right stuff and not be questioning, did you make the right move?
Yeah. So where do you start? How do you begin defining your buy box? We have a few things that we'll go through to help you determine, like, what is the checklist? What do you have to consider throughout? So the first thing is your price point. How does someone establish their price point?
You have to look at comparables in the area as part of it. So price point might come as like a later criteria, but you generally know how much you can afford. If you can only get 80% financing and you have to come up with a 20% down payment, then I have to save up a certain amount of cash to buy a certain type of house. So is it potentially better to buy lower priced houses so you can buy more of them? Or do you want to go for the higher end houses and buy fewer of them? Mm-hmm. It's really up to what you want to do with your dream life. I think having a criteria of price point helps steer the direction of what kind of houses you're looking for.
Yeah, and we're going to cover this in another episode when it comes to financing and securing lending, but that is probably how you're going to define that price point.
Yeah.
I get a bonus every year of $15,000, or I have been saving X amount of dollars from every paycheck and know that in a year I can save 8 to 10 grand.
Right.
And if you know that you can only get, 80 or 90% financing, that is going to limit your price point. And that might help to steer you in a direction of, I need to save more.
Right.
I need to get a side hustle. I need to do something on the side to build up my pot so that my price point can grow.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people go into this blindly. They're like, wow, there's great houses. I know you can do hard money, and I know that you can do this on the refi. And what they're usually left with is they're kind of stuck in this position of, oh crap, I didn't realize on the refi I had all these closing costs to count for, and now I've got all this holding cost of having that hard money for so long, and I can't get out of it. And what do you do? And then all of a sudden they're selling their car, they're getting a HELOC on their home equity line of credit on their home to try to just get out of the hard money, get into this refi that probably is not going to be a great situation. So to avoid all that, have a clear buy box.
Yeah.
And we'll cover in a later episode how to secure lending, different avenues for lending, with short-term rentals, long-term rentals, stuff like that. Yeah. But the price point is the first thing to start to consider to defining your buy box.
Yeah, you also want to think about the location. When we got started, we had a price point in mind. Our market did not support that price point, so we went to a different location. And after driving 45 minutes every day to work on that house, we decided, you know what, we'll pay more. We'll figure out the financing side. We are not making that drive anymore.
It was rough.
And now we still it's our furthest property from our house. Mm-hmm. And it's miserable if we have to go out there.
Yeah. It's tough.
We try to find contractors, but that's the other thing. We have 2 houses in that market versus the rest of our stuff is near us. So we don't have a built up list of contractors to go down there.
We call our contractors and say, hey, I know you don't like making that drive, but so-and-so is going on down there. Just, tack on a little bit extra for your time and gas. And luckily, so far, our contractors have been very supportive of taking care of those houses because I think they value the relationship that we've built over the course of the past 5 years. And they want to make sure that we keep using them.
Yeah.
Because lo and behold, we might find a contractor in that area that we like better, and they're more than willing to come up here. Yeah. So, it's all about the relationship building and maintaining that. But
keep your location in mind. Yeah. Have a zip code, a county. Bill Cook likes to say 10 miles
from the Cartersville Walmart.
Yeah. Yep. I don't know if it's 10 miles. It might be 5. Yeah. Sorry, Bill. I don't remember. But he has a very clear radius that he's willing to buy in.
Yeah.
Ours is probably down to the zip code level at this point.
Right.
We try to stay within a general area of our home, and we know those zip codes. So I like creating saved searches on Zillow. And that way I get notified the second a house gets listed.
Yeah.
And with that, I put in the zip code. So that saves me from looking at houses outside of my market.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, my brother just bought a house in New Orleans and he has messed up my algorithm because now all I'm getting are New Orleans houses. And I'm like, oh, that's a cute house. Why is it so expensive? Oh, it's in New Orleans.
That's an awesome 3-bed, 2-bath, 1,400 square foot. Why is it saying it's in a flood zone?
Right. I know. So don't look at stuff outside of your buy box because it'll mess up your algorithm. Just a fun fact.
On an interview we had with Adrian Smoot, he was telling me how he has trained his algorithm. Usually the algorithm trains you, but he was training his algorithm to only give him educational material that aligns with what he wants to be educated in.
Yeah.
So don't let the Zillow algorithm, that's a word twister. Don't let the Zillow algorithm mess you up.
Yes.
If you are in a location where it doesn't make sense to invest. There are some really great resources out there on long distance real estate investing, especially in the bigger pockets community. There are great resources there, some books and some different forums to be a part of.
It's not something we know anything about because we buy in our backyard.
I would say do your due diligence when selecting a market. And we had a gentleman on earlier in the interview podcast, Dustin Heiner, who does long distance real estate investing because he lives in, I believe, Arizona. And in his general market, it doesn't make sense, but he invests, in Texas or, Ohio and places that might have lower cost homes that fit his buy box.
Right.
His buy box has the exact kind of home he wants, but he has to go to different areas to find homes that fit into his buy box. Can you train Zillow to look for that home, like that buy box home in different markets?
You can go search whatever cities and just save the search. So then you get notified.
And we're entering a market right now where deals are coming back to the MLS sources.
Yeah.
That's how we
They
got
never
our start.
left for us. I mean,
well, they became more seldom.
Right. And we had to hunt a little more, but having that clear criteria and those alerts made it easy because we were able to put offers in on stuff before a lot of our friends even had a chance to look at it.
Yeah.
So the other big thing to think about is size. We went on this venture recently of looking at converting some homes into co-living and going with larger homes. And we looked at the numbers and found the renovation cost for a 3,500, 4,000 square foot is very different from the renovation cost of a 1,500 square foot house. So with that, we realized our core buy box as far as size are smaller homes.
4 or 5 bedroom co-living homes that are in about a 1,500 square foot house.
And by 4 or 5 bedroom, you really mean a 3 or 2 bedroom home that we convert into a 4 or 5 bedroom.
A 3 or 2 bedroom home that we create bedrooms in.
Right.
By, enclosing dining rooms or additional living rooms, bonus rooms, stuff of that nature. Now, one reason why we stick to the 4 or 5 bedroom is because of our zoning and knowing that you can only have up to 5 unrelated people living together.
Well, and it's easier because your members are not sharing a kitchen with 7 people.
Or there are pad splits and co-living situations out there that are 10 to 16 bedrooms in a home.
That just creates turmoil.
You're running a dormitory, and what level of maintenance and care and, landlording are you wanting to operate at?
Right. And so size, like it could also be you want the larger houses that are in better repair. So you're not spending tons of renovation costs because you want to attract families who are not going to move frequently.
Yeah.
You have to think, really, it comes down to the asset is not the house. The asset is the tenant because who's paying the mortgage and the rent? The tenant.
Yeah.
So what kind of tenant do you want to attract?
Yeah.
And pick the criteria that fits that.
Yeah.
We have found co-living works really great for us. But we also have some houses that are like homes we lived in previously that attract great tenants. They handle all the maintenance. They coordinate all of that so we don't have to.
Yeah.
So think about the end tenant you want and what house would that ideal tenant want to move into.
Yeah. I mean, that makes perfect sense. So your buy box is not just the house.
Right.
Your buy box also includes what level of tenant you want.
I mean, we've done really well with blue collar tenants, and we love our houses that attract them. I like that we have a mix of the different, I guess, property classes. I guess our higher end houses are less maintenance required because they're newer, which that goes into the next one, what year it was built. Our houses that we bought and completely renovated still had issues because you can't fix everything.
Yeah.
But our house that was built in 2015, 2016, how many maintenance requests have you done out there?
Almost none.
Right.
I mean, probably I can't figure out how to get the air filter out.
Right.
Like, that's not actually a maintenance request. It's,
or someone clogged the dishwasher because they put too much food in it.
Yeah. Silly things like that.
Yeah.
Not actual, hey, the front door just fell off the door jamb. And we got to go replace the door.
Did that just happen?
It's on the list.
Great.
Can you guess which property?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, along the same vein of, you're selecting your tenants in your buy box. Blue collar, white collar, Section 8. We have a really good friend, mentor of ours who does only Section 8 rentals. And he has just killed it. And what he tells everyone that knocks on Section 8, like everyone's like, Section 8, oh, it's the worst tenant. It's like, no, it's just like any other tenant. There's a relationship there where you have to build and train. And, there's this old saying, which it's probably not that old. I don't know. But there's a saying of there's always training happening when you communicate with your tenant. Either you're training them or they're training you.
Yeah.
And that's one that he likes to stand on and say, when you have Section 8 housing, usually there's going to be a learning curve for them to get used to you.
Every tenant, though.
Yeah,
there's
every
a learning curve.
Yeah, no matter how they're paying.
Right.
And what he loves is that it don't matter what the situation is. He gets mailbox money.
Yeah.
On the first or second or third.
Right.
Guaranteed.
Well, it's not even mailbox money. It's ACH.
Yeah.
He just opens his bank account and there it is. There's no fighting.
And he has perfected his process. His buy box is probably very strategically built. And he only buys the homes that fit that mold.
Right.
He's probably not buying the 2,500 square foot, what do you call those new houses that they're building? What style is that?
The Craftsman?
The Craftsman homes. He's probably not buying those Craftsman homes. He's probably buying the more mid-level homes.
But in good repair because they have to pass inspections.
Or he gets them to good repair.
Yes, right. And that goes into it too. How much renovation are you wanting to do?
Yeah.
We, I think, are at the point where we don't want to do structural. Are you in agreement with that?
I am into the mindset that the renovations that we do are primarily aesthetic.
Yes.
If there are structural things, let it be not to where we have to do major overhaul.
Yeah. We've made more money on our lipstick renovations than our big, scary foundation mold houses.
And we've done pretty much everything when it comes to structural.
Yeah.
We've jacked up houses. We have,
found snakes in attics.
We unjacked the house by jacking up the house because it was jacked up when we found it.
Ha.
Do you get it?
Ha.
Anyways, snakes in attics. We've torn out walls and completely had to rebuild them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm at the point too where so beds, bathrooms, parking situation. I'm at the point where if we're going to add another co-living house, I don't want to do a 1-bedroom.
Yeah.
I want to find stuff that has 2 beds. Because when you do a 1-bedroom, you generally have to add a bathroom.
Yeah.
And that's more of a renovation than we're wanting to do at this stage.
Yeah.
But if you're getting started, finding those houses that have 1 bathroom, adding a bathroom is not a huge undertaking if you have the right team. So you can take the deals that people like us don't want to touch and put in sweat equity and really grow your business. And that's how we got started.
Yeah. And in the early days, I would have no problem. And I did it. I mean, I had no problem going underneath houses and pouring footers and putting jacks in and leveling floors. And
you see all that gray hair on his sides. That's how it came.
That's love.
Yes.
Our next criteria point is the year built.
If you have a house built, is it 78?
1978.
Okay. Are at risk of lead-based paint. And with your tenants have to send an extra form when they sign their lease. I provide a lead-based paint pamphlet. I do it on every house because it's just easier to make it part of our system.
Yeah.
And we just say, we have no knowledge of lead-based paint in any of our houses.
Because we really don't.
We don't.
Yeah.
If we did, we would disclose that.
We'd disclose it and we'd probably remediate it.
Right.
I mean, we do whatever the county or municipality tells us to do with it.
We paint pretty much every house when we buy them anyways, so it really shouldn't come up. But we do submit that to our tenants. I know our houses built before, I would say 1990, have needed a lot more work than our houses built post 1990.
I agree with that, but those houses are more approachable from a financial aspect.
Agreed.
They're more approachable from a financial aspect, but they're hard to approach.
More affordable is what you're saying, right?
Yes, yes, they're more affordable, but it does create the necessity of working on it more.
Right.
We have a house that's 115 years old.
Yeah.
And it's constantly needing something. And that's understandable.
But it cash flows well, so it's
cash flows well.
And we've got reserves, so it's not a scary thing. It's not a bad thing. It's just if you're looking for a portfolio where you don't have tons of maintenance, personally to me in 1990 for our market is kind of where I see that it makes a difference.
And probably skip over the 2005 to 2008-ish homes as they were just all thrown up so quick and then got foreclosed. And probably there's no telling how long some of those houses sat without AC or anything like that. So there's just no telling.
Or how fast they were being built. Yeah. That something might have been skipped.
Well, that's also true for 2020 to present.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, we have a lot of friends who have bought new houses and have major issues with them, like foundation settling issues.
Because they went and, just built on the side of this mountain and they tried to create lots and they had to put a lot of fill dirt to create lots. And now it's just falling down.
So there's a benefit in buying something. To me, if I was going out for a non-co-living house right now, I would look for 1990 to probably 2005.
Yeah.
Because it's had a chance to settle. So you can see there's going to be settling cracks in the sheetrock, and that's okay. But you can see where that's at, and you can see what's happening with the floors to get a better idea of what it's going to look like.
Yeah.
That's just my 2 cents.
That's one of the biggest deterrence is the word of what people run from when they buy a home, whether you're buying for yourself or you're buying for an investment, is settling. And the thing is that it's not actually all that scary.
Right.
If you are that much concerned about it, find you a structural engineer and they can come evaluate the settling and tell you what grade of settling is it? How progressed is it?
Right.
Do they think it'll settle more? And how hard is it? How difficult would it be to actually fix it?
Yeah. I mean, you think about the house we just sold that was our home. We had a structural engineer come out because of the loan type we had to have him.
Yeah.
And they provided plans for our contractor on how to rebuild a pier. And that was it.
Yeah.
It was super easy. On that house, we outsourced everything because we had to with the loan type. But I highly recommend, if you are uncomfortable, get a structural engineer. It's going to cost you some money, but it's better to spend that money on the front end to find something instead of waiting and then having an even bigger bill like we've had on some other houses.
That's so true. The most I think we've ever spent on something structural was like $20,000.
Yeah, 20 or 30. Painful.
It was painful. It was very painful.
And we had part of that in the numbers, but not all of it.
Yeah. Just know that with age comes exposure of what age does to homes.
Yeah. Which could be good or bad.
And in 20, 30 years, I have a strong feeling that the houses that were just built, 2020, 2021, 2022, I have a strong feeling those 3 years of new builds, in 20 years, there's going to be some big things happening.
Yeah.
I mean, there's already some claims out there about some of America's biggest builders.
Yeah.
Building in a way to where the house is not able to get rid of excess moisture. The house, no matter how much HVAC you have going on it, it's like mold.
They're just not built properly.
Yeah. Yeah. And that just came from building too fast.
Yeah. I mean, I like the 70s brick ranches too.
Yeah.
Because they're solid. Those things are not going anywhere. We've had a massive tornado come through our town. You saw how many and obviously trees took out a lot of the homes.
That's right.
There's a lot of 70s brick ranches around here that
they didn't budge.
I know. So anytime I see a 70s brick ranch in our buy box, I'm like, yes, buy it. But I will say insurance is a lot higher for those houses.
It is. And
they're sturdy.
expected. It's expected though. And that's fine. why is the buy box so important? Like we did preface this conversation with it helps you to make sure that when you get to a point where you're done buying and you can just live off of your cash flow, that you never, you're not regretting what you bought.
Right. Yeah. What's the quote? Begin with the end in mind.
Yeah.
And when you are financially free and you're building your dream life, what kind of houses do you want to have? And start buying them now.
Yeah.
From our experience, we bought some stuff that was cheaper.
Yeah,
and one house, we rented it out to a tenant. She lived there for 9 months and then COVID hit and then she struggled to pay. So we reduced the rent to where she could afford it. She moved in January of that year and we limped along through COVID. So COVID kind of hit March, April. So that by December, we were like, you've paid basically enough to cover our mortgage. Please get out. We won't evict you, but just move out. And she did. And the house was in decent shape.
It was decent. Yeah.
And I looked at our tax return because she basically moved in early January, left late December. And we literally made like $5 for the year on that house. But you think about how much, oh my gosh, frustration trying to get her to pay rent was.
There was a lot.
It wasn't worth it.
Yeah.
Like we bought a house that attracted a certain kind of tenant. And it was unfortunate the way COVID hit because she was in the healthcare industry. And every time she got sick, she was out of work.
And they weren't paying.
Yeah. She did the best she could.
Yeah. And I have no ill feelings toward
her.
Oh,
none at all. None at all at all. I mean, just know that when you buy houses, you're buying the tenant in essence.
Yeah.
And we've converted that house to co-living. It cash flows great. We love that house now.
Yeah.
But in the long run, yes, it put us where we are today. So I'm happy with that decision. But would it have made sense to buy something a little bit newer and
in a different area of the town?
Yeah. Who knows? I mean, if that was our first house, we probably wouldn't have kept buying because it was so painful.
It was painful. I don't know. I think we would have still kept moving because our why was so big.
True.
We weren't going to accept no as an answer. Yeah. Our why was truly big enough. And if you don't know what we're talking about, the why was big enough. Go check out the first 10, 15 episodes.
And we talk
and our book, The Pathfinders Journey. There's definitely a lot of content back there to tell you.
Yeah, I think you have to know how much you're willing to put into the business to get to your dream life.
Yeah.
And we were all in. If we had not been all in, that probably could have sank us because we worked so hard that year and renovating the house and everything for it to produce literally nothing in income.
Right.
It's a long game.
It's those experiences though that, we often have this conversation of that was awful. That was hard, but you have to go through things sometimes to be able to be the better version of yourself and to come here on this podcast for us to be here to share with others.
Right.
So that they can learn from that.
Yeah.
And
for sure.
Listeners out there, you're going to go through your own struggles. You're going to have hard parts and you're going to have to go through them. But if at any point you can avoid it, there are a lot of hards that are avoidable.
Yeah.
There are tons of them.
Yeah. If you go into it with the strategy of, I have a certain amount of cash to invest. So I'm going to buy cheaper houses now. And I plan in 5 years that I'm going to do a 1031 tax deferred exchange and buy more expensive houses later because I know my dream life involves 10 nice, like newer free and clear properties. Then that's what you do. Yeah. But go into it with a strategy. So you're not busting your butt to buy houses that don't fit your dream life. Don't climb the ladder up the wrong building and reach your dream life and look around and say, oh, whoa, like this is not what I wanted.
And then look at your portfolio and say, I'm not proud of this. It doesn't perform the way I want it to.
Yeah.
It's in a market that, was on the road to going downhill and now it's truly at the bottom of the hill. And I put all of my eggs in this basket. You can't foresee the future, but trends are a thing. Yeah. And throughout the course of your investing career, your buy box is going to shift.
Right.
Our buy box right now is those single family homes that are X amount of square feet and year built and all of that.
But it'll shift.
But in 10 years from now, our buy box might be, 15,000 square foot commercial buildings, strip malls, if you want to call it that. That's our buy box. So your buy box is going to shift. But it's probably should shift with your roadmap.
Yeah.
And your roadmap is a 3-year, look into where your life is going. And that helps to align your daily action.
Right.
So just make sure your buy box aligns with the goals that you've set forth in your roadmap.
Yeah. And I think too, at the end of the day, the tenant is what makes the house.
Mm-hmm.
And we've talked about selling one particular house, but the tenant there is great. So why walk away from that income when we don't really hear from the tenant? We know we're going to have to put some repair money in, but we factor that into the numbers. It cash flows well. So
I don't even know which house you're talking about.
The one that you're working on a stove right now, because you put in a cheap stove.
Don't buy cheap appliances. Just go buy a new one.
Yeah. But you think about it, she's been great. She's easy to work with. She pays her rent on time. Yeah. So why would we get rid of that?
It's in a decent location too.
It's just not the best house.
Yeah. Well, it is great now. Put a lot of work in there.
Yeah. But we probably broke even I know we broke even last year because I just finished our taxes on that house. So we, didn't make any money that year because we sunk so much into it. Mm-hmm. But now we've got a runway
where it's going to make money.
Yeah.
And the value of that home has probably tripled.
Yeah.
From where we bought it at.
Right.
So there is something to be said about time.
Yes.
And the power of time.
But I've also heard people will buy a house and hold it for 5 to 8 years because they don't want to do big CapEx. They don't want to put a roof on it.
So every 5 to 8 years, they're 1031ing.
Yes. It's a strategy.
It is a strategy, and it lets you step up.
Yeah. It sounds like work.
It does sound like work.
I'd rather do this for work than constantly buying houses.
Right. I agree with you.
It's a strategy. At the end of the day, find a strategy that works for you.
Yeah. And if you don't know how to get started doing that, if you have no clue how to get started, making sure you have your roadmap, fully strategized and built out. That way, that helps you to figure out your buy box. We do have content where we try to help you build your roadmap.
Yeah. Start with the book.
Yeah.
That's a good starting point. The Pathfinders Journey. It's on Amazon. You can find it on our website. It's
in the show notes as well. It says buy our book here. You just click the here button and it takes you to Amazon. We'd love for you to go read that book and give us some reviews on it.
Yeah.
That book is very powerful if you have no clue where to start.
Yeah.
It's a quick read. It's really easy to read too. So,
all right.
But I think that's about it for today. The buy box, why is it important, how to do it, and what's your next steps?
Yeah.
I think
take some action. Don't just listen to this and do nothing. Think about your buy box and write it down.
That's big.
Yeah.
That's so big. Out of all the 12 interviews I did last season, one of the most common, topics when I asked them, what advice do you want to give to those trying to get started today? Mm-hmm. And the biggest, repeating thing was taking action.
Yeah.
It's so easy to educate. It's so easy to strategize. It's so easy to dream.
Right.
It's so hard to take action.
Yeah. Go make an offer. Go run numbers. Go do something.
All right, Tiffany, take us out.
All right. Thanks, y'all, for hanging out with us and listening to us talk about the buy box and why you need one. What lessons can you take from this podcast and apply it to your life? Don't let the time you just invested go to waste. You only get one life, so live it purposefully. That's all we have for you today. See you next time.
Thank you for tuning in. If you have any questions or comments, we'd love to hear from you. Head over to onpurposeinvestor.com and sign up for our newsletter to get all the latest updates. If you haven't already, we'd really appreciate an honest review wherever you watch our podcast. All right, now go smash that subscribe and follow button for more tips on building your dream life. See you next week, Pathfinders.